You know that story, right? The one that always seems to pop up. Person running on fumes, maybe some lukewarm coffee, juggling like 3, maybe even 4 jobs, making these huge personal sacrifices, just trying to keep the lights on. It feels like such a defining American narrative sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. And it goes completely viral, doesn't it? You see it everywhere. YouTube, TikTok, Reddit posts, these heroic day-in-the-life videos. This single parent hustling like mad, or maybe that young engineer who's secretly managing, multiple remote gigs. You definitely see the tenacity.
You do. You see the inspiration, the grind, that dedication. But okay, today we want to kind of skip past the motivational poster version.
Right.
Our mission here is to take a real deep dive into the brutal economics behind it all and the hidden human costs too.
Yeah, the stuff that doesn't make it into the highlight reel.
Exactly. And crucially, we need to distinguish between 2 really different kinds of multi-job holding happening in the U.S. right now, because they're not the same thing at all.
That's such a key point. It's fascinating because based on the sources, we're really not talking about just one phenomenon anymore. It's more like a spectrum.
A spectrum.
Yeah, like a line drawn between people who absolutely have to hustle just to survive, and then others who are hustling much more strategically, aiming for maximum financial gain.
Okay, let's really unpack that then. Let's define these 2 faces of working multiple jobs, because that term side hustle, wow, it covers everything now, doesn't it?
It really does. From making minimum wage on deliveries to secretly juggling multiple 6-figure salaries.
Right. So where do we start?
Okay, so on one side, you've got what we can call survival-driven side hustles. This is generally your low to middle income worker.
Okay.
They're typically taking on maybe 2 or 3 part-time jobs, often roles with no benefits, or gig work, think shifts in the service industry, driving for apps, that sort of thing.
And their motivation.
It's pure financial necessity. Straight up. They're putting in those 60-plus hours a week just to cover the absolute basics. Food, housing, getting around, maybe some healthcare costs.
So the goal isn't building wealth. It's more like debt maintenance, keeping their head above water.
Precisely. Just sheer survival. But then you've got this other thing happening, this newer, rapidly growing phenomenon. People are calling it strategic overemployment, or sometimes job stacking.
Job stacking. Okay, I've heard that term. How is this group different?
Radically different. Now we're talking about high-skilled knowledge workers, often in fields like, say, software engineering, specialized consulting, maybe digital marketing.
And they're not doing part-time gigs?
No, that's the key. They're secretly managing 2, sometimes even 3, full-time remote positions, all at the same time.
Whoa. Okay, how do they even manage that?
Well, they go to pretty extreme lengths to hide it from all their employers. It's a whole operation.
And the goal here, obviously not just paying the rent.
Not at all. The goal disparity is just massive. For the overemployed folks, they aren't sweating the electricity bill. Their focus is on rapid, really aggressive wealth building.
Like what?
Often they're aiming for financial dependence, maybe early retirement, that FIRE movement.
Yes, financial independence, retire early.
Exactly. So these strategic hustlers, they're basically using job stacking as a kind of hyperspeed path to hit that FIRE goal much, much faster than they could with just one salary.
Huh. I hadn't really thought about the career insurance angle, though, which some sources mentioned. Is that part of it, too, like a reaction to layoffs?
Oh, definitely. That's a huge piece of the motivation for some. They see this strategic job stacking as a direct response to years of seeing, corporate disloyalty, mass layoffs happening suddenly.
So it's like risk diversification for your career.
Exactly. Workers are thinking, why should I be loyal to just one company that might ditch me next quarter? Instead, they kind of treat their own labor as a business of one.
With multiple clients? Yeah. The employers?
Right. If one paycheck suddenly stops, well, they've still got 1 or 2 others coming in. It's a really powerful way to reframe that modern employment contract, or lack thereof.
That is. Yeah, that's a striking insight. But okay, let's switch gears back for a minute to the survival hustlers.
Okay.
Because their situation really shines a light on some deep systemic pressures in the U.S. economy. What are the fundamental economic forces making it so hard for one job to be enough for so many families?
Well, fundamentally, it boils down to this just catastrophic gap between costs and income. And the absolute central pressure point, it's housing.
Always housing.
Always housing. It's the single biggest item in most family budgets, right? And housing costs, especially rent, have just risen drastically faster than the median household income. This has been going on for decades.
Rent goes way up. Paychecks barely budge.
Pretty much. And that creates this reality where millions of people are cost burdened, meaning they're spending way over that recommended 30% of their income just on keeping a roof over their heads.
And the sources had a really terrifying number for folks at the lower end of the income scale, didn't they?
They did. It's stark. For low-income renters, after they pay their rent, the average amount of money left over what economists call residual income.
Okay.
The money left for everything else. Food, transportation, medical costs, clothes, you name it.
Yeah.
It's tragically low. Often around just $310 a month.
Wait, $310 to cover everything else for a whole month?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that figure alone basically explains why a second or third job becomes an immediate, non-negotiable thing. It's not about getting ahead, it's just existing.
Exactly. It's not a choice for like discretionary spending or saving. It's just survival math. And here's where it gets really interesting, and it kind of highlights how common low-wage job stacking is. We hit this financial paradox.
A paradox? What do you mean?
Well, census data analysis suggests that people who hold multiple jobs sometimes actually earn less per quarter, on average. Less than those who rely on just one, often slightly higher paying, single job.
Hold on, that feels totally counterintuitive. You're saying someone working like 60 or 70 hours across 2 or 3 part-time gigs might bring home less cash than someone with a standard 40-hour week job. How does that even work?
It points to the structural failure of low-wage labor, really. It shows how often holding multiple jobs isn't some sign of, successful budding entrepreneurship.
Right.
It's more often a desperate attempt to just patch together a living from jobs that are inherently low wage, often without benefits, maybe in the gig economy. They end up trading quantity of hours for quality of pay.
Because that single 40-hour job, even if it only pays modestly, it might come with benefits, maybe more stability, or it's just a slightly more specialized role that commands a bit more than minimum wage.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the multi-job hustlers are stuck constantly fighting inflation, maybe juggling credit card debt, student loans, working maximum hours, but still living paycheck to paycheck.
It's a brutal cycle.
It really is. And we also see very clearly in the data that this pressure isn't spread out equally across the population.
Okay, so who's really carrying the heaviest load here? When you look at the demographics, who is most likely to be in this multi-job situation out of necessity?
Well, the burden is definitely uneven. If you look at gender, women have a notably higher rate of holding multiple jobs. It's around 5.7% compared to 4.7% for men.
Okay, why is that? Is it just the persistent gender wage gap forcing women to work more hours to make the same amount? Or is childcare a factor?
It seems to be a mix of factors. The wage gap certainly plays a role, forcing women to work more to reach income parity. But also, women often take on those flexible part-time jobs, specifically to supplement income, because they remain the primary caregivers more often than men.
So they need schedules that can bend around school pickups or other family needs.
Right. And that flexibility often comes at the cost of lower wages and fewer benefits per job. And critically, the data also shows that African-American women have the highest rate among all racial and gender groups at about 6.2%.
Wow. And what about marital status? Does that tell a story too?
Oh, absolutely. It paints a really clear picture of financial vulnerability. The highest rates of holding multiple jobs are found among people who are widowed, divorced, or separated.
That makes sense.
It really emphasizes that severe financial strain on single breadwinners.
Yeah.
Right? Someone suddenly loses a household income, or maybe never had it, and now they have to compensate for 100% of the household costs entirely on their own.
Okay, so that's the necessity side, the who and the why. But let's talk about the invisible costs, the human toll that doesn't really show up on any spreadsheet, because all these hours, they must have a massive fallout.
Huge. I mean, the core non-financial cost is just chronic burnout, extreme sleep deprivation, and severe strain on relationships.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We know lack of sleep messes with your cognitive function, your mood, your long-term health. And some studies even suggest a link between excessive work hours and the resulting stress contributing to a significant chunk of divorces, maybe like 20% to 30%.
20 to 30%. That's substantial. And that's the strain on the couple's relationship. But what about the impact on the kids? The very people these parents are often sacrificing all this time and energy for, that part gets kind of minimized in the whole hustle culture narrative.
It's the collateral damage we don't talk about enough.
Yeah.
When researchers actually survey the children of parents working extreme hours, what do the kids say they want?
Oh, more stuff.
Nope. Overwhelmingly, they say they just wish they had more time with their parents, not necessarily more material possessions or money. So that sacrifice, even though it's born out of love and necessity, It comes at a really high emotional cost to the family unit itself.
Yeah. You see those real-life examples, right? Like that story of Desmond Durham, the father juggling 3 jobs while studying late nights to get his degree. It's presented as perseverance, and it absolutely is.
It is incredible perseverance.
But that kind of schedule, it feels like you're constantly walking a tightrope, right? There's this constant lurking risk of just physical or mental collapse.
Absolutely. It's incredibly precarious. And, that brings up a whole different but related conversation, the ethical critique of what people are calling toxic hustle culture.
Right. Because while individual stories like Desmond's are genuine and often inspiring, the broader social media trend sometimes feels a bit manufactured, or at least selective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's definitely a backlash growing, especially among younger generations, Gen Z in particular. They're pushing back against online content that seems to, glorify suffering.
Or romanticize the grind without acknowledging the systemic reasons why people are grinding so hard.
Precisely. The main critique really hinges on something called survivorship bias.
Okay, explain that.
It means the content focuses almost exclusively on the, say, 10% who make it, the ones who actually pay off all the debt, or buy the house, or launch the successful company off their side hustle.
While ignoring the other 90%.
Exactly. Ignoring the vast majority who burn out, maybe get sick, develop chronic health issues, or frankly just remain poor despite working 80 hours a week. It sort of turns desperation into an aspirational aesthetic, which is problematic.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. The ethical debate gets even thornier, though, when we circle back to that other group we talked about, the high-skilled, overemployed people, the secret job stackers. Is what they're doing just smart labor strategy in a precarious world? Or is it actually ethically problematic?
It's definitely wading into a legal and ethical minefield.
Yeah.
And this is where, HR departments and legal teams really pay close attention.
I bet.
The primary arguments against job stacking are pretty serious. First is the accusation of job hoarding.
Meaning they're taking up multiple good jobs that could potentially go to someone who's unemployed or underemployed.
That's the argument, yeah. Whether it holds up economically, it's debated, but it's a perception issue. But maybe the bigger, more immediate threat for the individual is violating employment contracts.
Right. Because companies generally expect loyalty and, crucially, your full-time commitment for your full-time salary.
Exactly. So what happens if one of these secret job stackers gets caught?
I imagine it's not pretty.
No. Usually it means immediate termination, often quite aggressively. And the legal risk is substantial. Companies might pursue litigation for things like breach of contract, violating non-compete clauses if they exist, or even time theft.
Time theft, claiming you worked hours for them when you were actually working for someone else.
Correct. But even beyond the legal stuff, think about the psychological burden on the person doing it.
Yeah, what's the hidden mental trade-off for bringing in maybe double or triple the income?
It's the constant, unrelenting stress of maintaining absolute secrecy. Imagine juggling multiple laptops, different meeting schedules, constantly worrying about accidentally sharing the wrong screen on a video call.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Having to keep completely silent about your work life on places like LinkedIn, performing these incredibly complex scheduling gymnastics day in, day out, that level of professional paranoia, it's a massive psychological weight. Very few people can likely sustain that long term without consequences.
That sounds exhausting. That really is the hidden cost of trying to outsmart the system, isn't it? Okay, so we've looked at the problem, the pressures, the human cost, the ethics. Now, let's pivot. For the listener who might be feeling stuck in that survival grind right now, what's the smart strategy? How do you transition out of the multiple job trap?
Okay, this is crucial. Because the most dangerous trap is just trading your time for money indefinitely in low-wage gigs. That's a recipe for burnout. The actionable roadmap we see emerging emphasizes a long-term shift, moving away from sheer volume of hours towards increasing the value of your time.
Okay, so instead of just picking up that third fast food shift or driving more hours, what should someone in that survival hustle prioritize?
The most effective long-term move seems to be the upskill strategy.
Upskilling, meaning learning new skills.
Yes, but strategically. It means dedicating whatever limited time you can carve out. And this requires ruthless discipline when you're already exhausted.
I can only imagine.
Dedicating that time to acquiring one specific high-value skill, or maybe a certification. Think about spending, say, 6 months really focused on learning a trade, maybe a coding language, getting certified in specialized software that's in demand.
So that shifts the whole paradigm, right? You move from just scraping together pennies per hour to actually increasing the inherent value of every single hour you work.
Exactly. If you can manage to increase your primary salary by, say, 40% or 50% through targeted upskilling, that often completely removes the need for the second or third job.
It becomes an investment in your future earning potential, not just patching holes in your current cash flow.
Precisely. And think about specific high-demand skills, things that maybe can be certified relatively quickly. Project management certifications, specialized cloud computing skills like AWS or Azure, maybe focused training in a technical trade that's always needed, like welding or HVAC repair.
Skills that command a premium hourly rate, much higher than typical gig work.
Way higher. That's the long-term escape route.
Yeah.
But okay, what about right now? While someone is working on upskilling, they still need stability. How do they build a safety net?
Good question. Immediate financial stabilization.
Right. You need to start building a solid financial safety net, even if it feels absolutely impossible at first. The standard advice holds true. Work towards establishing an emergency fund, a cash buffer.
The classic 3-6 months of expenses, or maybe even more.
Yeah, aiming for 3 to 9 months of basic living expenses is a good goal. It takes time. But use any extra income you do get from those side jobs, the money that's currently just funding the hustle, use that strategically. Aggressively prioritize paying down high-interest debt, especially credit cards. Those things act like anchors, just dragging your entire financial life down with massive interest payments. Getting rid of them frees up cash flow faster than almost anything else.
Okay, upskill for the long term, build an emergency fund, and attack high-interest debt for the short term. Makes sense. But what about the burnout factor we talked about? You can't really execute this escape plan if the grind just breaks you physically or mentally first.
You absolutely can't. Which brings us to the final, maybe most crucial piece. Boundary setting. It has to be non-negotiable.
Even when you feel desperate for every dollar.
Especially then. You need clear, enforceable rules to protect your mental health, your physical health, and your family time. For instance, establishing a firm cutoff time for work, like no checking emails, no work whatsoever after 8 p.m., period.
But we're maybe dedicating one full day on the weekend entirely to rest or family, no matter how tempting that extra shift seems.
Exactly. You have to actively schedule rest and recovery. Treat it with the same importance as a work shift. Otherwise, the inevitable burnout will just derail the entire strategic plan you're trying to implement.
That's really powerful advice. Treat your rest time as seriously as you treat your paycheck. Because your sanity, your health, that's actually your most valuable asset in all of this.
Precisely. You can't earn if you're broken.
Okay. So we started with that familiar, often emotional narrative of the person working multiple jobs. We tried to pull back the curtain on the economic forces, often making it necessary.
We looked at the strategic wealth building side too, the job stackers.
Right. And we highlighted the really heavy human toll, the burnout, the family strain that affects both groups, albeit maybe in different ways.
Yeah, what really stands out to me, looking back at it all, is that core tension we identified. The grind needed for pure survival versus the strategic use of, let's call it polyworking, for rapid wealth accumulation.
They both often involve long hours, intense effort.
Absolutely, but the motivations driving them, and certainly the potential outcomes, are just worlds apart fundamentally.
Which kind of leaves us and you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to mull over. Does this whole trend, the rise of survival hustles and strategic job stacking, does it represent a fundamental failure of the American economy? A failure to provide a living wage or support a single-income family anymore?
Or is this simply the new reality? Is this the inevitable, maybe even rational next stage of labor in our digital, seemingly post-loyalty economy? A world where diversifying your income streams is just the smart way to operate?
It's a big question, and we really want to know what you think. Have you worked multiple jobs? Or are you doing it now? Was it or is it primarily to survive or more to thrive and get ahead?
And maybe more importantly, what has the true cost of that hustle been for you, or perhaps for someone you know? What's the part of the story that doesn't usually get told?
Let us know your experience, your perspective down in the comments below. We read them and we're genuinely interested.
Yeah, please share. And if you found this useful, maybe give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.